Hello, Runbound fandom. I'm Shipper. If you haven't seen me before, Shipper Queen 93. I've been the one dealing, taking care of all the tea stuff this year. Has been my first year, so I thank you for bearing with me and all the crap I've done. With me, I have got my roommate and best friend. Her name on Tumblr is Rukia Queen Bitch. Suggest you follow her. Pretty awesome. She's a rumbeller, though she doesn't fully admit it. She's going to help me out here today with reading all of our nominations, all of our little excerpts, our winners and everything. She's being so great to do this. She is sick, and I'm messing with my shirt. I'm sorry. I'm not used to this. She is sick, so give her some leeway. I'm going to hit you in the face. Oh my god. To prove our Rumbell love today, we've brought a couple of things. I've got my Rumbell pillow, my chip cut pillow from Wrist Pig. Check out her shop. If you have not, buy a pillow or more. She has penis blanket. Who doesn't want a penis blanket? We've got a crappy Rumbell chip cup that I made myself, and that's why it's crappy, and why I'll admit it so. Here's a closer look. It's just a white mug painted in chips. And I've got my, where is it? Aha! My little dagger plushie from Janito Sam. I don't know if she's still making them. Inquire. It's worth the investment. And then we've got Alan. He's not Rumbell related, but he's adorable. I mean, look at him. Okay, so we are reading our nominations and everything off of the laptop here. So that's why we're going to be like booking back and forth. There's 77 pages here. I was not printing that out. I'm not made of money. I don't have a printer. It wasn't happening. So we're just going to be back and forth. We're going to try. We will read the categories. We will read the name of the fic and the author. And then we will read an excerpt of the fic. Some authors did not wish to have us read them. So those, we will just read the name of the fic and the author. And we'll move on. At the end, we'll announce the winner. Maybe we'll give a little round of applause. It depends on if we remember at the time. Okay, so here we go. Starting out in the fluff category, starting in the family category, we have A Mother and Father, also known as the adoption verse, and will probably be referred to as the adoption verse from here on, by Stand By Your Mantis. An excerpt reads, She had kissed and been kissed. She had even kissed him. But this feeling was new. She had never felt so cared for as when he bent over her hand. The tension between them was palpable, and she knew that whatever this was, it was so delicate that the smallest thing would break it. Yet Belle was powerless to even try. She opened her mouth, meaning to speak, but couldn't think of words. And so she let her mouth close again. Her lips were slightly parted, and she knew it was an invitation to kiss her, but damn, she needed it. She needed him. She needed it. And that was the adoption verse by Stand By Your Mantis.
Next is Morning with the Golds by this lady right here, Shipper Queen 93.
Thank you again for anybody who nominated me. I hurt you, like, very much.
Yeah, okay. Her excerpt reads, He smirked, setting his hands upon her thigh and hip, then stepping smoothly to the right, and
That's...
What?
That's not me. No, it's not.
Oh, it's not.
There's gonna be some issues here. We are human. Let's try this again. This is Morning by the Gold by me, read by her.
Her eyes widened at the teasing, and she quickly backpedaled. No, I'm your little Elizabeth. I want to make waffles with you, Daddy. Please? Mommy, can I make...
Waffles, please. Shh, make mistakes.
He couldn't contain his laughter anymore. Belle hit him lightly on the chest and reprimanded, but she was laughing too. Rumbell, stop.
Rumple.
Wow.
Told you, we're gonna make mistakes. It's a learning curve.
Anyway. Rumple, stop teasing her. Go on down, sweetheart. Daddy and I will be down in a minute, and you can help me make the waffles. Maybe Daddy can magic up some chocolate chips since you've been so good lately. She shot him a look as if daring him to protest, but he just nodded.
Again, that was Morning by the Gold by me, Stripper Queen 93. Okay, moving on. Why is it doing this? I don't know. Okay, so we're just gonna keep scrolling down. Going on. We got The Elf by, and I'm sorry if I pronounced this wrong, Kenny. This is just how I pronounced it. It's The Elf by Tenuvio Ondomio. And again, if I pronounce that wrong, I'm probably gonna do it again, and I'm sorry. Just a little FYI. Same for anybody else's names that we mispronounce. So, The Elf by Tenuvio Ondomio. So now you see why Santa couldn't give you what you wanted, Belle told him. Some children ask for things they can't have, like real cars, a dinosaur for a pet, or a trip to the moon. We have to give them things that will make them happy, but also keep their futures bright. I just wanted my father, he said in a quiet voice. So does Neil, Belle said. I'm here. I want to be his father. I know that. This is your chance to show him that, Belle said. I'm only here to help him. I'm not only here to help him, I'm here to help you too. Again, that was The Elf by Tenuvio Ondomio.
Okay, next is A Dance in Winter by Snape Girl MF. KMF. He smirked, setting his hands upon her thigh and hip, then stepping smoothly to the right and on the turn, lifting her into the air with his hands and thighs. Belle felt like a graceful swan as she was lifted from the ground. She felt as if she had wings and could soar to the stars, and she was not in the least afraid of falling.
That was, again, A Dance in Winter by Snape Girl KMF. And I am reading Do You Believe in Magic by Snape Girl KMF. Rumple found himself grasping more straw and spinning even faster. Belle's and his children's belief in his skill, buoying him up on a wave of triumph that filled him with pride and joy, so great he was almost swept away. I can do this. I am a master spinner. I can spin anything I want, even straw into gold. Gold coiled around the bobbin in a delicate fine strand, as fine as the thread he had once spun from wool, piling upon the wooden spool, twinkling and glittering like a rogue star fallen from the heavens. Rumple, you did it! Again, that was Do You Believe in Magic by Snape Girl KMF.
Next is A Visit with Grandpa by Charmed Rumbell. So you guys really are Beauty and the Beast then? That's cool, Henry said. Did you have talking furniture in your castle? Well, some of it talked at one point, Rumpelstiltskin said. Rumple! There were not things in the castle that were once people, were there? Belle asked, very concerned. Rumpelstiltskin was silent. Well, you can't leave them like that. Change them back.
Again, that was A Visit with Grandpa by Charmed Rumbell. Next is Wishful by Les Straggletag. They'll end up here. They'll know. They'll take me away. Belle seemed anguished, but somehow resigned, looking ready to say goodbye and leave them, however reluctantly. She'd never given him any indication she disliked having him as a master. Most of the time, it seemed easy enough to forget. Belle wasn't a servant, if anything, a miracle, and his superior in every possible way. She'd given them so much and had turned their lives upside down and brought hope and joy. He wouldn't give her up. Not so easily. Bay's right. We're going. Again, that was Wishful by the Straggletag.
Next is Yours, Mine, and Rumpelstiltskin by Snape Girl KMF. Rumple traced a finger gently down Belle's collarbone and trailed kisses down her neck as thunder boomed outside. He paid no attention to it until suddenly the door opened and Clary whimpered, Papa, I'm scared of the thunder. It's really loud. Damn it, I forgot to lock the door. This is what happens when we got 18 children, Belle giggled, as now June and Philip joined them, also terrified of the storm. So much for our wedding night, he gripped, thinking he knew he should have just found a quiet spot in the back of the chapel.
Again, that was Yours, Mine, and Rumpelstiltskin by Snape Girl KMF. The next nominee is For a Spin by Bad Fairy. Belle stared at him for so long that Gold was convinced her answer would be no. Then she held out a trembling hand. Deal. He shook it to seal the deal, then lifted her hand to his lips and pressed a gentle kiss to her knuckles. The deal is struck. Images flashed before his eyes as he kissed her hand. Gold saw Belle standing in his kitchen, hugging Bay and laughing. He saw her curled up on the sofa with a book in one hand and a cup of tea in the other. He saw her sprawled across his bed, don't laugh at me, her chestnut curls in wanton disarray. He saw her beaming up at him from under a white veil. That was For a Spin by Bad Fairy. And the winner for Best Family Fluff is
The adoption verse by
Stand By Your Mantis. Yay! Next year we need to get drum roll. Okay, so the next category is Love Comfort. And that's you.
The first one is The Boy by Darcy Farrow. It happens so gradually that Rumple isn't aware of it. It happens in moments. The moment the boy climbs into Rumple's lap with the book in tow. Bay wasn't bookish. Then tilts his head to inquire sweetly. Bay wasn't a charmer. He was direct and outspoken. Sorry, Dada. For a second, Rumple thinks the boy is apologizing for something. Sorry, Daddy. Daddy, not Papa. For Bay, it was always Papa. It happened when the boy gurgles and splashes in the bath. Bay hated bath time, would climb out of the wooden tub when Papa's back was turned, and would toddle out of the cottage to be caught starkers in the road. This boy loved bath time.
And that was The Boy by Darcy Farrow. The next nominee is Bare Feet and Bared Hearts by Nicole Munch Seidel. He opens his eyes to see a pair of beautiful bare feet standing on the floor in front of him. In a slightly maternal tone, Rumpelstiltskin hears Belle whisper, "You're such a liar," as her fingers continue to slowly knead his scalp. He slowly raises his head as he desperately searches within himself for some anger with which to repel her. And that was Bare Feet and Bared Hearts by Nicole Munch Seidel. And the winner for Fluff Comfort is The Boy by Darcy Farrow. Yay! Next category is Fluff Fix It. That's you.
Okay. The first one is Remember by To See How the Story Ends. Sweetheart, he whispered, turning back to his wife as shaking fingers brushed hair out of her eyes. That's not to mince words. I'm so sorry. I love you, and you've always been your strength, Belle replied weakly, her blue eyes starting to cloud over already. I know, and I'm sorry too. I should have. The words ended in a wet and rattled cough, and Rumpelstiltskin shook his head desperately. The floor beneath her was already wet and stained dark red. That's not okay.
That's not okay! I obviously haven't read all these fics, and some of these are excerpts that the author sent in to me, and I just copy and pasted. I'm gonna have to read this, because, dude, I don't know what happened, and that's not okay. But that was Remembered by To See How the Story Ends. I think she's also known as Robin4 on AO3. If I'm wrong on that, I'm sorry, but I'm pretty sure that's correct. Okay, the next nominee is In Grand Central Terminal by Worryingly Innocent. I can't believe you came, the man says. He speaks as if in a dream, as if he can't believe that the woman at his side is real even though he can see her and feel her, and we can all see her too. You were so angry. Believe me, Rumple, I am still angry. But the other day I remembered something. For most people, the greatest weakness is the thing they love most. But you, Rumple, are not and will never be most people. That was In Grand Central Terminal by Worryingly Innocent.
Next is Unconditional by Snape Girl KMF. A few moments later, Henry heard Rumpel say audibly, "Most of our problems have been communication ones, dearie. We were apart so much that when we were together we forgot to really talk to each other, and just jumped to conclusions and assumptions. I'm not the same person you knew back in the Dark Castle or even before I was resurrected, and you've changed too. But one thing hasn't changed. I still love you."
And that was Unconditional by Snape Girl KMF. The next nominee is Metamorphosis Through Love by Nicole Munch-Seidel. Stroking her hair. Belle, I think you've had a seizure. This has happened before? Still cradled in her arms, she nodded slightly. Yes, for a little while now. I'd wake up on the floor of my cell. I never knew how long I'd been out, but it was frightening frightening having that happen when I was alone. She looks at him with tears in her eyes and says, but this time, I felt you pulling me back. And that was Metamorphosis Through Love by Nicole Munch-Seidel.
Next is Bare Feet and Bare Hearts by Nicole Munch-Seidel. Okay. As his dark eyes met her blue eyes, reddened from crying, her porcelain features are framed by a halo of lush dark chestnut hair, and he thinks to himself, Gods, I have to push her away again. Moving her hand from his hair to wipe his tear-soaked cheek, Belle said, Look, I know you're angry with me.
Again, she's sick. Sorry.
I'm not really sure why, but you've made it abundantly clear that you are. Well, I'm pretty angry at you too. But I just know if I leave, we will both regret it forever.
That was Bare Feet and Bare Hearts by Nicole Munch-Seidel. The next nominee is Lost by Prissy Halliwell. He asked if she didn't wish he were a younger man, a handsomer man, a better man. She laughed and kissed him, telling him that the next time he said anything so stupid, she'd toss him into the lake head first. I'm exactly where I want to be, she told him. And where's that? Lost, happily ever after. That's so sweet! Oh, I gotta read this one too. Someone make a tally for this, because I haven't read them all. And that's Lost by Prissy Halliwell. I get distracted, sorry.
Okay, next up is On This Christmas Day by Bad Fairy. What are you doing? Holding up his suitcase, he tried to smile. Making a different choice, he answered. Do you have room for a passenger? Through the windshield, she held his pleading gaze for what felt like an eternity. Then she put the car in park and leaned over to unlock the passenger door. Before she could change her mind, Rumpelstiltskin got himself into the car, putting his hand over hers. Belle, once we cross that line, I'll be powerless. I won't be able to protect you. She nodded, her eyes sincere. I know.
And that was On This Christmas Day by Bad Fairy. The next nominee is Shoveling Snow by Just Rum Belgieri. Thanks for the pie, dear. Awesome. Love you. The smile has left her lips, but her eyes are still aglow with some tender emotion Rumpelstiltskin cannot put a name to. She crosses the small room to stand before him and softly asks, May I? Catching up his calloused hands in her own. Not knowing what she is about to do, he nods awestruck. The radiant girl dips her head, her gleaming hair spilling over her slender shoulders, as she raises his rough hands to her lips. She kisses his dry knuckles, his calloused thumbs, the back of his wrists, his creased palms, and even his spits and fingernails. That was Shoveling Snow by Just Rum Belgieri. And the winner of Fluff Fix It is In Grand Central Station by Worryingly Innocent. Yay! You guys should be clapping along too. And the next category is Fluff Comedy.
The first nomination is the Beta.
We're going with Beta.
Okay. The Beta by Endangered Slug, and she requested to have no snippets for that one.
So we're going to honor that, and we're going to move on to the next one. Okay. The next nomination is The Calamari Verse by Spotty Tongue Dog. If I get through this without laughing, you know it's wrong. He steps past her and touches one finger to the glass. Now listen here, you giant slug. I don't think octopuses are slugs. Rumpelstiltskin just shoots her a look and goes on. You better not try that little move again, or it's calamari. I think that's squid. He throws his arms up in the air at her words. Or some sort of damn food with you. Don't believe me? I will do it. Belle just giggles and stalks out. You don't believe him? Stan asks. He sounds worried. Not for a moment. I love Stan. Even she loves Stan. And she doesn't read fanfiction, but just from what I tell her.
Not Rumble fanfiction, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, she reads other fanfiction, but that's another story for a different day. Yeah. So that was The Calamari Verse by Spotty Tongue Dog.
Next nomination is Wouldn't It Be Good to Be in Your Own Shoes? Wow, to be in your shoes by Charmed Rumble. Hello, David answered. Belle? Rumpelstiltskin looked at him, his eyes widening. Yes, dearie? Don't call her dearie. I don't call her dearie. I only call people that irritate me dearie, Rumpelstiltskin said, gritting his teeth at David. David put his hand over the phone. You call me dearie, David said. And you just made my point, Rumpelstiltskin said. Well, what do you call her? David asked. Sweetheart, Rumpelstiltskin said quietly, blushing a bit.
Yeah, that was a great thing. I love it. That was Wouldn't It Be Good to Be in Your Shoes by Charmed Rumble. The next nominee is The Tenant by Endangered Slug. And the next nominee is Match.com by Mr. Gold's Theory.
Aw, your room is so cute. She throws herself on his bed.
I love this one.
Rumpel is a nervous wreck that doesn't know what to do. Belle, he wiped the sweat collecting on his brow. Oh, look, fishies! You can see the fishies from your bed. Hi, fishies! She waves at the tape. Oh, Rumpel, is this where you sit when you talk online? She rolls around in his bed and her dress crumples up. He turns away from her. Yeah, sometimes. He peeks back and her panties are showing. Your bed is so soft. Come sit with me.
And that was Match.com by Mr. Gold's Theory. These are great. I love this. Okay, the next nominee is A Second Little Mishap by Snape Girl KMF. This was the craziest conversation Neil had ever had. His 3.5-year-old father and his 3-year-old girlfriend were having a conniption about playing house together. Emma had to go get drunk toddler from a bar, and baby Regina was causing a car accident running over Bambi. The second little mishap was going to drive him out of his mind. That was A Second Little Mishap by Snape Girl KMF.
Next nominee is The Announcement by Spotty Tongue Dog. The sign is indeed massive. Grumpy did not exaggerate. It's several stories tall, higher even than the trees that surrounded it. It could probably be seen for miles around, which he supposes was the point. It's a simple sign, really. White background, black block letters. It screams at the reader in all capital letters. Did I mention that Belle is my wife? Seriously? Emma asked, staring upward. Seriously, comes the unexpected response. Leaning against the signs, arms crossed over his chest, dressed as impeccably as always, though his hair is sticking out a little funny, is Rumpelstiltskin.
And that was The Announcement by Spotty Tongue Dog. The next nominee is Under a Bushel by Wrist Pig, and it reads, Charming resigned himself to the bush, praying quietly that this deal would be over and done with today. Giving more time to prepare, Rumpelstiltskin discussed the plan, woo the lady, and receive an official invitation to call on her. Simple enough, should the imp maintain his conviction. That was Under a Bushel by Wrist Pig.
Next nominee is The Doodle by Endangered Slug. She requested no snippet.
And the winner is, for Best Fluff Comedy, is That was a bad drum roll.
That
Wow.
was pretty terrible.
Anyway, the winner is The Beta by Endangered Slug. Yay, Sluggy! Told you we were gonna win one. Told you. Okay, in Best Annie Yell for the Fluff category, our first nominee is Star-Crossed by Bramble Briar Rose, and I promise you I will mess up those words at some point during this. And her excerpt reads, even without the helpful notes from Stargate International's Oversight Advisory, it would not have taken Belle long to get a handle on the man she had been sent to help. Driven to the point of obsession, short-tempered, impatient, lonely, lost. Something like that, she agreed. But then, we've been doing a fair job of that already. Whoa. I might have mixed up my excerpt. Sorry. I'm going to continue. Something like that, she agreed. But then we've been doing a fair job of that already. He looked up at that, a frown creasing his forehead. Dr. French, he began. Belle, she countered softly. Dr. French, he insisted with something close to grief. It's for the best. My work is too important for me to lose focus right now. As you notice, there's some room for error in this. Some people sent me snippets. Some I had to go in and just copy and paste one. Like I said, I haven't read all of these fics, so I might have copied something incorrectly. My apologies in advance if that happened. I'm sorry. Moving on. The next nominee is
In the Library at Night by Just Rebelbeery. What is it, Shelby? She'll feign deep concentration, pretending to listen to a low turtle whisker while the children giggle and nudge one another. Oh dear. He says he's feeling very timid today. She apologized to the circle, then leaned in closer to catch what else Shelby has to say. He says he'll only come out if he may sit next to his good friend Mr. Gold. Shall we ask Mr. Gold to come over? There is loud universal agreement that Shelby's friend should be located immediately next to join the story time circle.
Oh. And that was In the Library at Night by Just From Belvedere. The next nominee is Men at Work by Just From Belvedere. See now your father will get to the experience the deepest, truest kind of love there is. Love when you cannot offer a single thing in return, not even a simple smile. Love when you are at your lowest and most dependent. And your father is lucky. He has you to look after and care for him. Not everyone has someone to tend and fuss over them when they need it most. But he does. He has you. And now he has me. That was Men at Work by Just From Belvedere.
Next nominee is Guiding Light by Where's My Garden? Dancing it was. He hadn't danced since Gloria passed, and found himself wooden-footed and being firmly turned by Isabel. Unless he was mistaken, the style of dance now was much closer than it was a decade ago, and he was all about.
I'm sorry, I'm hungry.
And he was all but pressed chest to chest with Isabel. Perhaps that was a consequence of always being a half step behind. He must be making a fool of himself, glancing always at everyone else's feet. But Isabel was giggling at him, and her bright eyes so close to his were making him oddly inclined towards continuing foolishness.
And that was Guiding Light by Where's My Garden. The next nominee is A Wish Your Heart Makes, aka Doll Danny, by Bee in Your Bonnet. I know you hate school, she told Danny one day, sitting alone in an empty classroom with her cafeteria lunch. But if you keep going, you'll just get more and more brilliant. You could run a business. Maybe you can run a business. And I'll be a scientist. Danny would talk a lot more, she knew, if he had lips. The straight line that made up his mouth didn't lend itself to conversation. That was A Wish Your Heart Makes by Bee in Your Bonnet.
Next nominee is The Lips, the Teeth, the Tip of the Tongue by Just Rumnell Beery.
Say that 5 times fast.
Yeah, no.
Worth a shot.
Okay. Seeming to forget himself, the boy lifts his shadowed eyes to her face, and she cannot help but smile. He is so very hesitant and appealing. At that welcoming, upward quirk of her lips, he startles and sucks in his breath, accidentally knocking his charcoals and pencils to the floor, making an enormous clatter. The students around him whistle, stomp, and laugh, although one of them is kind enough to help him scramble on the hard floor after his scattered supplies. I'll wager this isn't a regular sight over at the seminary. Am I right, Father Joe?
That was The Lips, the Teeth, the Tip of the Tongue by Just Rum Belder. I'm pretty sure that is a tongue twister somewhere. Anyway, the winner for Fluff Annie L. I don't know if I'm saying that right. That's how we're going to say it from now on. Annie L. Is In the Library at Night by Just Rum Belder. Yay! So the next category of categories is something this fandom is known for. Mud! Everybody's favorite category. I just about hit you in the face.
Yeah, you do that a lot.
Maybe if you got more excited over the smut, I wouldn't have to hit you in the face.
Woo!
We have the best smut in any fandom ever. Shush, you don't get to dispute it. Alan agrees.
Alan does not.
Alan agrees.
He doesn't like smut.
Alan agrees. Anyway, the first subcategory of smut is kink. Ooh. So, the first nominee in the kink category is Threads of Gold by Once Upon a... Oh, you know the rest. Take Their Place. He purred, in my dungeon. As long as I can have you in their place, I will spare all future thieves. Perhaps it was the fact he still wasn't wearing anything, and she could still taste him on her lips, but being at his mercy, even in his dungeon, didn't seem like so bad a deal. There's a very good chance that we will blush during this and stumble over words because reading it in our heads and reading it out loud, very different. Just saying. You want me to read this one?
You know what? I'll read it.
You sure?
Yeah,
okay.
Let me read it.
Okay.
Okay, next nominee is Blood Pressure.
High Blood Pleasure.
Sorry, I can't see.
Okay. High Blood Pleasure.
High Blood Pleasure by Worryingly Innocent.
I told you I would read this one.
Okay, wait,
I'm reading it.
Let me do it.
Okay. She gets a little squickish about some things. No offense.
No offense, yeah. No offense at all.
As we all know, not everybody's kink is our kink.
That's okay.
Don't kink shame.
Yeah, don't hate on the kinks, guys. Okay. It sounds like thunder.
I haven't eaten Rumbell fandom. I'm doing this for you. High Blood Pleasure by Worryingly Innocent. I'll read it.
No, I'm gonna read it. I'm on my period, Rumple, she reminds him. And he nibs her skin with his teeth and swipes his tongue over the mark to soothe it. And I thought you'd be disgusted by the idea. Oh, Belle. Rumple blows over her skin, his breath cold on the damp patches his kisses have left. Do I seem disgusted to you?
You deserve a round of applause for getting through that. Like I said, not everybody's kinks are the same. Some people feel differently.
Do you like my T-Rex necklace?
She has a lovely T-Rex necklace. On to the next nominee. It is, and I am going to pronounce this wrong, I'm sorry, Nell. It is the Nabokov verse by Nothing Ever Lost. She waited 3 days before coming to the pawn shop. He told her so much, more than she had ever guessed at being the part of a lifestyle that she was only beginning to understand. It had taken all of her free time to study the things they had discussed. It was the dreams that drove her to the shop. Papa. The word felt right when she saw him. Mo French was her father, but gold was the word she wanted to be her papa. Sweetheart. His hand was soft against her cheek as he touched her, his lips a gentle caress. That was the Nabokov, no, differently, verse by Nothing Ever Lost.
Next nominee is Choker of Lace
I love this.
by
Grumple Von Stiltskin.
that. I don't know what else I could possibly give you. You own my pleasure and my pain. I beg for your permission to come. I kneel whenever you ask it of me. Pleasure you whichever way you ask of me. Humiliate myself and let you in on my darkest fantasies. You know already more of me than anyone else, but you're still not satisfied. Her throat was raw, her eyes stinging, but she didn't lower her gaze and didn't bend her head.
That was Choker of Lace by Grumple Von Stiltskin. The next nominee, and one of my personal favorites, is Size Doesn't Matter, aka Tiny Rumple by Stand By Your Mantis. See, she knows of this. She hasn't read it, and she already loves it. So, the excerpt reads, Mantis, you didn't give me the best part. Shame, Mantis. Shame. The excerpt reads, Finally, after she had just about broke her leg trying to catch him and not drop the heavy book, she picked him up gently, pulled the neck of her bodice away from her body, and dropped him in. Belle! He exclaimed indignantly as he could while being approximately 9 inches tall. What are you doing? You keep slipping, she said calmly, as she could manage. This way, at least I don't have to worry about keeping a hold of you and the spellbook. Plus, you'll be able to see easier. That was Size Doesn't Matter, aka Tiny Rumple verse by Stand By Your Mantis.
Next nominee is The Filthy Priest verse by Grumple Von Stiltskin. Did I say it right?
Yeah.
Awesome. When she was sure that he wouldn't gunce back over his shoulder, she fished a pebble out of her knickers, her cheeks aflame, and swallowing an undignified squeak when her fingertips met her damp flesh. This was the worst thing ever. And worst of all, when that tiny sound escaped her, he turned around again, stretching out his hand, palms up, without giving her the chance to rub the pebble dry. She hoped to rub the wetness off with her thumb, but the little stone was still warm. His fingers closed around it when she dropped it into his palm, his eyes fixating her and pinning her in place.
That was The Filthy Priest verse by Grumple Von Stiltskin. I love that verse too. Gep, you didn't tell me not to read anything. So I'm sorry, I'm going to read something from Reindeer Games by Gepardo. He gave her a crooked smile that took away some years from his face, giving him an almost carefree look to him that she had never seen before, not even directed to his only son. Giving a little smile back, she carefully checked that both of his eyes were okay. Thankfully, they were. There was no damage that she could see, and why were they getting closer? Belle only managed a little squeak before her mouth was covered by his. The kiss was suffocatingly long, possessive, and hungry, and he didn't let go until she dug her fingers into one of his cups. Those are all the nominees. And the winner of Best Smut Kink is Choker of Lace by Grumple Von Stiltskin. Yay! We've got that down. The next category is Porn Without Plot, my favorite. Go ahead, Rukia Queen Bitch.
Okay, first nominee is Straw in His Hands by Woobazoid.
That's a fun word. Woobazoid. I love your URL. Go you Woobazoid. Woobazoid.
He eventually... okay. He eventually... I am sick. Yep. I really am.
He eventually winds the thread over her waist, down her hips, and then over her buttocks. He sinks to his knees and looks up at her wickedly. Belle's breath catches with eager anticipation of what he's going to do next. He loops the thread in between her legs, adjusting it so that it caresses her where she is most desperate for a touch, and she cries out at the sensation of finally having him there. He doesn't use his hands or lips, but he may as well have for all the pleasure the touch gives, and she sobs at the sensation that torments her, if only because it's not enough. And that was Straw in His Hands by Woobazoid. Woobazoid.
Can I read that one?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. Next nominee is Mandrake by Where's My Garden? You want me, she said, in all her contemplation of Rumpelstiltskin, which in fairness to his apparent thought, had sometimes strayed into appreciation of his legs in his tight leather. He had thought he must court witches and queens and fairies, that girls without a spark of magic or a history outside their own land. Maybe a couple restless nights, with her hands clutching her hair while she tossed, had visited him on her behalf as well.
And that was Mandrake by Where's My Garden. The next nominee is The Big Tease by The Naughty Scandalous Scorpio. Oh, but you've been a wicked little girl, my Belle, taunting me for weeks, driving me to distraction with your sweet touches and lovely smiles, tempting me with those fluttering eyelashes, torturing me with that delectable backside of yours, thrust out for even visitors to covet, making me suffer by feeding me with those dainty fingers that I now know touch that sweet cunt of yours. And that was The Big Tease by The Naughty Scandalous Scorpio, who lives up to her name.
Next nominee is A Happy Accident by Wonder Wounded Heart.
Yours. I told you.
Yours.
I told her that I was going to pronounce it wrong. I keep saying Wonder Wounded Heart. It's Wonder Wounded Hearers. FYI. You can't. Let's go back up.
Yeah, what is it?
I thought I could go down.
A wide doily sounds in his throat and Belle writhes beneath him, and then his face is gone, his eyes no longer available for her to look into, and his head is firmly lodged between her thighs. The scream that leaves Belle's mouth should be blood-curdling, should be a horror and offense and fear. But it is far from that. She arches her back, breathless and mouth-parted in a silent echo of her cry, as Rumpelstiltskin lifts her hips barely out of the water and laps between her thighs.
If you haven't guessed yet, if I haven't read all of these, there's no way in hell she's read all of these, and we didn't go through these excerpts before we made the video. Rookie mistake. We'll fix that next time. In the meantime, watch her blush. The next excerpt and nominee is Led by Wonder Wounded Hearers. Belle slipped the belt of the robe from its knot and parted the sides of the pale pink silk wrapped about her. It caressed the curve of her shoulder as it fell from its perch on her left side, slipping to the crook of her elbow before she caught it, eyelashes meeting her cheek. He watched, pencil near breaking between his curled fingers, as she bared her left breast to the robe, a pale handful of flesh, so arresting and topped with a wide rosy nipple, and then the downward plane of her ribs meeting her soft belly. He swallowed against the heat rising to his face, before fighting it again as it relocated to the apex of his hitched trousers. That was Led by Wonder Wounded Hearers. And the winner for Smut Porn Without Plot is Straw in His Hands by Woobazoid. Yay! Go Woobazoid. So the next category is Smut Romance.
Okay. First nominee is Choker of Lace by Rumpelstiltskin.
Oopsie, sorry again. I don't know why it's doing that.
She reached out to him, placed her hand over his heart, felt it beating. He seemed to think she wanted to push him back, and he let his head fall from her face. But only when he stepped back, and she felt a sharp tug did she realize that he had ripped a choker from her throat. She reached for her bare throat and able to pump air into her lungs, but he didn't notice or didn't care. He turned and slipped her choker of lace into his pocket.
Why did I put that there? That's so heartbreaking. If you know the story, that's heartbreaking.
Well, she can't breathe, so that's pretty good.
Oh, she can't read because you took her choker. You're gonna have to read it. Everyone, convince her. Message her. Rukia Queen Bitch. Message her. Convince her to read Choker of Lace. And the next nominee is Guide Me Home by The Straggle Tag. I don't want to be friends with you. I don't want you to apologize for kissing me. I just want you to never stop. For a moment he wondered if he'd fallen asleep in the cab and was having a wonderful dream, but never had any dream of his been so vivid. He could smell her and feel the lingering taste of her in his mouth, could sense the heat of her as he pressed up against him. I don't understand. That was Guide Me Home by The Straggle Tag. This video is going to be really long. I apologize now if you have not figured that out. I will also post a list of nominees after this video is posted in case you don't want to watch like 2 hours of us blabbering on. Hopefully it doesn't take that long.
Look, you can see my feet and
Focus.
Okay, next nominee is Married to the Magic by Spotty Tongue Dog.
Look at all bodies.
She needed more. She needed the feel of his hand against her flesh skin, and, knowing he likely could see no more than she could, reached down to grasp at the bottom of her nightgown. She pulled it up over her thighs and was thrilled when she felt him still for a moment and his hand come to join hers. Are you sure, Belle? Absolutely sure this is what you want? She nodded and realized, when she got no response, that he could not see her absence. Yes, she whispered, the word coming out on a sigh.
That was Married to the Magic by Spotty Tongue Dog. And the winner for Smut Romance is Guide Me Home by The Straggle Tag. Yay! I'll hit sit on it. That won't help. And the next category is Smut Comedy. Because who doesn't like a little laughter amidst the smut? And the first nominee is Size Didn't Matter by Stand By Your Masses. And she only sent me one excerpt for 2 categories she was nominated in. So I'm not going to read it again to try and cut down on time. It's Belle plucking up Tiny Rumple and sticking him in her shirt. Size Doesn't Matter by Stand By Your Masses. For future reference, if they're in multiple categories and they did not send me multiple excerpts, I will only read the excerpt one time to try and save time. If they have sent me multiple excerpts for their categories, as some authors did, I will read the excerpts. Hope that it makes sense to everybody. Nobody gets upset. Next category is, or next nominee is Cabin Fever by Emo Spriteless. I don't know if it's me or you three. I'll go ahead and read. The cries grew louder, reaching their peak, with Belle shrieking wordlessly and Rumple letting out a muffled shout and swearing loudly as he followed her. The Charming stayed very still as they listened to the cries fade into pants, while the newlyweds tried to catch their breath. There was the sound of heavy, wet kisses and contented murmuring, along with the whispered endearments that made Mary Margaret think they were actually pretty cute together. Nakedness aside. Any moment, surely, breathed David. Stay exactly where you are, and maybe... You've got to be fucking kidding me! Rumple's loud, snide voice made them tense and groan inwardly. David chanced to look at Mary Margaret. She was raising her eyes to the ceiling and muttering soundlessly, almost as if she was praying. That was Cabin Fever by Emo Spriteless. And the winner for Smut Comedy is Cabin Fever by Emo Spriteless. Yay! Congratulations. Now we come to one of our new categories this year. It is Best threesome. Now, if you did not remember, this included NEL categories, or like Golden Swan Beauty, or Rumbell Rush, Rumbell Lacey, things like that. As it happened, we got 2 Rush Bell Rushes. But for next year, for future reference, threesomes are open. The first nominee, I think you read this one.
Yep.
Okay, let's go back up.
First nominee is Three's Company by Emo Spritelet. What the fucking hell do you think you're doing? A very loud, very Scottish, very irate voice broke through their enjoyment of each other, and Bell looked around with unfocused eyes to see Rush, the other Rush, standing with his hands on his hips, eyes throwing daggers at the man with his hands on Bell. What does it fucking look like? Came the response, and Rush turned his attention to Bell, looking outraged. Are you serious? I can't go and work on my own for 5 minutes without you shagging the newbie?
That was Three's Company by Emo Spritelet. The next nominee is Uncanny by Just Rumbell Deary. Belle has her stormy eyes firmly fixed on Nicholas, and she's crossing the room to stand before him. She's going to fucking eat him alive. Unless Destiny is literally hurtling into a black hole right now, Rush and I are going to stay and bloody finish what you so rudely interrupted. You may either fuck right off, or you may stay and join us. I bloody don't care which, but you will not stand there staring at me like I'm yesterday's rubbish. Flushed and tousled, bare-housed and quivering, Belle pokes a finger deep into Nicholas' breastbone, just daring him to speak. That was Uncanny by Just Rumbell Deary. And the winner for Smut Threesome is Three's Company by Emo Spritelet. Yay! Alright, the next category is Best NEL in the Smut category. Our first nominee is The First Law of Thermodynamics by Just Rumbell Deary. He pushes his wire-rimmed glasses back up the bridge of his nose, then begins to gather up his things to go. Behind his chair he hears a soft click. The deadbolt on Belle's door slides discreetly into place. It might as well have been a thunderous shotgun clap, announcing the beginning of a horse race. Within his tight chest, Rush's heart takes off at a frantic gallop. That was The First Law of Thermodynamics by Just Rumbell Deary.
Next nominee is Erotic Destiny by Emo Spritelet.
Do you need me to read this? No. Okay, back up.
Rush let himself relax onto her, breathing hard, his face pushed into her neck. Feeling the rise and fall of her chest as she tried to calm herself, her fingers stroked lightly over his back and shoulders, and he tried not to wince. She had broken the skin a few times by the feel of it. He didn't give a flying fuck. When he had recovered a little, he pushed himself up, looking down at her. Belle's eyes were hooded and lazy, a sleeping smile on her face, and she reached up to brush his hair back off of his forehead. That was bloody amazing, she slurred. Remind me to let you be a control freak more often.
That was Erotic Destiny by Emo Spritelet. The next nominee is Where's the Fuck's Belle by Lotus O'Kid. Again, if I pronounce your URL wrong, I apologize. Danny stuffs the ticket to Titus Arondicus, I pronounced that wrong, back into his pocket and sits at the table. His various types of upset subside, and he finds a smile as he watches Belle coax his ancient appliances into doing her bidding. And he can say without unfortunate attempt to metaphor, this is exactly where he wants to be. That was Where's the Fuck's Belle by Lotus O'Kid.
Next nominee is 4 Minutes by Lotus O'Kid.
Yeah, I don't know how it's supposed to be pronounced. We're going with Lotus O'Kid.
As silence falls, Danny finds himself glancing over at Miss French. She pulled a purse into her lap and has an open paperback in hand. When those eyes of hers flick up from the page to him, Danny immediately finds somewhere else to look, while scratching at the back of his head. Fucking Christ. She makes him feel like a teenager or something. He wishes he knew why.
That was 4 Minutes by Lotus O'Kiss. The next nominee is Not a Fucking Fairy Tale by Nothing Ever Lost. A bed for more than just sleeping, Nasty. Her hands fisted and his shirt was trembling, but she didn't move away. That's not why I fucking brought you here. Not for a fucking gratitude fuck. He glanced down, but as close as she would, he could see straight down the front of her towel to the swell of her breast. With a hand grasping the material of his shirt, and the other playing nervously with the tail of a dreadlock, it was only a single tuck of material that luck that kept the terry cloth from falling. This isn't about fucking and running. That was Not a Fucking Fairy Tale by Nothing Ever Lost.
Next nominee is Good Boy by
City.
Another night. Her body curled around his, new bruises, and she crooned at him, pushing his dreads around and letting him tuck his arms under hers. It left her so open. She was so wee that he took up all of her space like this, and he liked that he could. When you wanted to disappear, you had to wrap around something that was permanent, so you didn't. Poor Nasty, sweet baby. Bill rubbed her cheek into the top of his head and let him wriggle his hands under the broken-in cotton she wore. It was so worn that he could have torn it, but you never ever damaged clothes. Belle had a drawer full of soap, but she wore this for a reason. His bird-like comfort.
That was Good Boy by Spitty. The next nominee is The Way Forward by Bad Fairy. Joseph, Belle trailed off, sighing. After a moment, she squared her shoulders, seeming to gather her courage. Do you want me to show you? The noise he made was more of an inarticulate squawk than a word, but it made Belle smile. Carefully, she lifted each of his hands to her mouth. Kissing the back of his fingers, she confided, I think you're wonderful. You're so sweet and easy to talk to, and of course you're very handsome too. She ducked her head with an embarrassed smile. I tried not to like you because of the seminary, but I couldn't help it. That was The Way Forward by Bad Fairy. And the winner for Smut Annie L is Erotic Destiny by Emo Spritelet. Yay! The next category is angst, because what is Rumbelle without angst? It's not like we don't get enough of it in this show.
Angst, I love you.
She's the angst fan, I'm the smut fan.
I love angst.
Together, we really, really, really love angsty smut. True story.
Wow, it's really true.
True story. True. The first angst category is why? Why would you do this to us?
Is my turn?
I think so.
Okay. Dead Bedroom by Owl of My Love. Marriage, he knew, did not entitle him to sex with Belle. Sean knew that being in a relationship that altogether, after dating and marriage, was 5 years old did not entitle him to a single damn thing. Yet, it did not stop him from longing to be inside his wife and wishing that he could just feel her warm breasts, pleasure her with his tongue, feel the wetness between his legs, and release himself inside her. It had been a year of this dead bedroom, and it was tearing him apart. Gold pursued his lips together. Gold pursed his lips together and tilted his head back into the pillow, choking back the sobs he so desperately wanted to let go.
That was Dead Bedroom by Owl of My Love. It's really angsty and really sweet. You really should read it. Owl did an amazing job. Don't you see how great of a roommate she is? I'm getting like a head massage and getting her to play with my hair, and I don't have to do nothing.
Yeah,
awesome roommate.
Yeah, you did. I'm sick. You need to like make me soup or something. Yeah. Isn't that
Hey Sluggy, you're the fandom mom. You want to make her soup?
Make me soup.
Sluggy is an awesome fandom mom. The next nominee is Unknown Moments of Kindness by Hand with Quill. But he stood, straightened out his jacket, and with eyes and a smile, saying, "Thank you," picked up his pharmacy bag and left. That damn bag! She sat forward in the chair, wiping the tears that were forming in her eyes away, and took his hand. She ignored the sound of the ventilator breathing for him, and the sound of the newspaper hitting the floor. She kicked it under the bed so she couldn't see the headline, and it's proclaiming, "Mr. Gold attempts suicide." What the fuck? I have not read that one. I need to read that and cry. That was Unknown Moments of Kindness by Ian Whitcliffe.
Next nominee is The Metamorphosis by Jess from Baldieri. Rumpelstiltskin wriggles his sharp hooked nose. My wife and I prefer our solitude. My wife and I are tired of this town's endless parade of interruptions and complications. My wife and I are finished with the whole sorry lot of you. After he has left off speaking, he reins control of his breathing and calmly examines the half-moons beneath his fingernails. They have turned a foreboding shade of sooty black. How interesting.
That was The Metamorphosis by Just from Belvedere. The next nominee is Only Cowards Run by Endangered Slug. And we do not have a snippet for that. So moving on to the next nominee. Half Alive but Mostly Dead by That Ravenclaw Bitch. Usually he tried not to think about Belle or Bay, numbing himself to every thought until he just existed, floating like foam on the waves. But every so often his memories invaded his carefully blank mind, torturing them with their beauty. He had a son. He had a wife. Now he has nothing but a house filled with dusty relics, himself included. That was Half Alive but Mostly Dead by That Ravenclaw Bitch.
Next nominee is Among the Books by Little Inkstone. Until next time, Miss French, he said, his tone polite and distant, as if he hadn't just fucked her so hard she knew from experience she'd be pleasantly sore the next day. Goodbye, Mr. Gold, she replied, fighting to keep the bitterness out of her voice, lest he mistake the reason why it was there. He looked at her carefully, before nodding curtly, leaving without another word. She slumped back against the pillows on her bed, listening to his Cadillac's engine roar to life before hearing the telltale crunch of gravel under tires that meant he was gone.
That was Among the Books by Little Inkstone. And the winner for Angst Why is Dead Bedroom by Owl of My Love. Yay! The next category is Angst Death.
I'm morbid. I don't know what else to say.
My turn? My turn.
No, you just said that.
Did I read them? You read Among the Books. Yeah, you read Among the Books.
Oh, I did. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
The first nominee is Scars Never Shown by Tinuvio Ondomio. I'm pretty sure I'm saying it wrong. Everyone else had gone. It was just the two of them and the diggers, who each had a shovel ready to put the earth back in the hole. So they stood there in silence, together as shovel after shovel of dirt was dropped on the coffin. There was surely a gathering at Granny's with food and commiserating over the love of one so young, but neither was ready to leave Neil yet. It wasn't until the final shovelful hit the loose earth, the last scrape of soil against metal, that Gold felt the final piece of his heart shatter. The tears he had held back fell in earnest, perhaps never to end. His boy, his precious boy, was gone. All that kept him from going mad was the warmth of Belle's hand as she squeezed his fingers. That was Scars Never Shown by Tinuvio Ondomio.
Next nominee is Spinning by Darcy Farah. The old man tells him he's a natural, whereas other boys would quickly grow bored. Rumpel has found the spinner's secret place, a place in his mind he can retreat to, where the world is blacked out, memories are pushed away, dreams are distant, and there's only solitude. Rumpel's hands, the old man says, are large and his fingers are long, and that will be an advantage. His small body is advantage too. When he spins, he's no longer the runt, the cripple. For the first time in his life, Rumpel is powerful.
That was Spinning by Darcy Farah. And the winner for Angst Death is Scars Never Shown by Tinuvial Undumio. You didn't even give it a shot.
I didn't. I knew how to remember.
Congratulations! And in the Angst, oops, I accidentally made it angsty. She didn't do it on accident. We only have one nominee, so by default, though she definitely deserves it, is Purgatory by That Ravenclaw Bitch. Yay! Oh yeah, sorry! Her excerpt reads,
I'm not a good man, Isabel. Goldbrow. Just because you're spreading your legs for me doesn't mean I am any less of a monster. Don't think you can fuck the goodness into me.
Love that line. Favorite of mine.
Good job.
And the last category in the angst field is Best NEL. The first nominee being After the Storm by my Tumblr mother, Melissa Vasquez. He could never understand why she had chose to love him when she could have had her pick of any man that she wanted. He had nothing to offer her when they were married except for his own love in return. And here he was dishonoring that love, breaking that trust. And God help him, he couldn't stop. That was After the Storm by Melissa Vasquez.
Next nominee is Sparrow's Fall by Bad Fairy.
It's so sad.
He would be patient. He would wait. If his mate was tired, he'd let her sleep. Eventually, she would open her eyes, and he'd have his smile. In the meantime, he would hold her and stroke her and keep her warm and comfortable. She'd be pleased when he saw what good care he'd taken of her. He would wait. She like a coma.
It's worse.
She's dead.
She's dead.
And she just like, okay.
Read it. You have to read. Message her again. She needs to read Bad Fairy's Beast Rush series. Get on that Tumblr. Get on that Rumbell. Get it, people. Get it. The next nominee is The Mending Verse by Nothing Ever Lost. I'm leaving in the morning, and I don't know when I'll be back. I don't know if I will be back. This is my life, Belle. This is the life I chose a long time ago. It doesn't lend itself to being in a relationship very easy, or buying a home, or settling down. His hair was shorter than it had been, Belle noticed. It was a stupid thing to realize, but had been growing out over the summer. He was slipping away. A home isn't a place, Carl. I haven't asked for you to change anything. I just want him. That was The Mending Verse by Nothing Ever Lost. And the winner for Best Angst NEL is Sparrow's Fall by Bad Fairy. Yay! That means she made us cry the most. Tears.
Good job. I don't know.
And we are going to take a short break.